Alright, so I've decided to go with a flat pitch setting for this run just because I have better braking ability with the prop set at flat pitch on the rollout. So, and in introduction, yeah, I'm just going to be taking it down the runway again today, just working my speeds up from about sort of 80 knots, 85 knots. And I've got the elevator set to sort of neutral trim. So we're just going to do that and step it up each time and see how things go. Belt offset tower, Raptor 352 Tango Delta holding short of 17 for a high-speed taxi.
Raptor 352 Tango Delta, belt offset tower, runway 17, high-speed taxi approved.
17, high-speed taxi, 2 Tango Delta.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, turn right taxiway Alpha, same intention. One correction, turn left taxiway Alpha, same intention.
Left on Alpha 1 here, I'd like to taxi back to 17, can I just stay with you? 2 Tango Delta.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, affirmative, runway 17, taxi via Alpha, remain the frequency.
17 by Alpha on this frequency, 2 Tango Delta. Alright, that felt, wasn't coming off the ground, and I think I saw indicated about 96, 97, so I know it's reading high on that, so I think the ground speed, I believe, was in the mid-80s, so it's going to go a little bit quicker this time. It's feeling light, but it's feeling stable. There's no wind out there right now, so it's everything feels comfortable. It's definitely feeling light, but it's not doing anything weird. It's just going straight. So, and I didn't want to pull it back. I just wanted to come off on its own, whether I have it at the trim setting that I have now or adding a little bit more trim. But I think, given that the airspeed is reading a bit high, I think I'm just going to aim for 100 knots stable on indicated airspeed. And because 93 was where Mark indicated that it should come off on its own. So I think I'll just aim for 100 knots indicated. It's a nice even number. And then, so I'll do this next run with 100. And then if it doesn't come off, I'll just add a tiny little bit of nose up on the elevator. And we'll see how that goes on the third run.
Raptor 352 Tango Delta, belt off the tower. Runway 17, high-speed taxi approved.
Runway 17 high-speed taxi, and also FYI, I am attempting now and going forward to get it into ground effect, just so you know.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, roger.
Alright, we're going for 100 indicated.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, San Antonio.
I would like to taxi back for another go. 2 Tango Delta.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, runway 17 taxi via Alpha, remain this frequency.
And taxi by Alpha on this frequency, 2 Tango Delta. Alright, looks like we need a little bit more elevator. It's definitely getting super light. It's almost skating around. Okay, so I've added a little bit more elevator trim. We're going to just do about the same airspeed. It's still nice and controllable, so even though it's, you know, I can tell it's getting really light. Well, off the tower, Raptor 352 Tango Delta, holding short of 17.
Raptor 352 Tango Delta, last tower. Raptor 352 Tango Delta, are you going to do a high-speed taxi or are you going to try another ground attempt?
Well, they're all going to be high-speed taxis, but I'm just bringing up a little bit faster each time to see if it'll come into ground effect on its own. So that's what I'm attempting right now.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, roger. Only 17 high-speed taxi, please.
17 high-speed taxi, 2 Tango Delta.
Raptor 27 Delta, turn left, taxiway Alpha, runway 17, taxi via Alpha.
Turning left on Alpha 17 via Alpha 2 Tango Delta. It's getting extremely light. And I don't want to just, as tempting as it may be, just to pull back a little bit more, I just don't want to do that because I want to find out what setting here it takes and what airspeed it takes for it to fly off on its own. So, and I'm, prepared to push the nose down a little bit if it wants to come up too quickly, but it's not doing anything weird like that right now, so just making little baby steps here in terms of the elevator trim feels comfortable for me. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit more of elevator trim here. I'm not having any problem stopping doing this, so I imagine the first time it comes off the ground here, or I'm expecting that the first time it comes off the ground here, it's only going to be just briefly. So I'll have plenty of time just to ease the power. Well, I've already got the power back anyway. So just ease the power back and then get it back on the ground and roll out. I'm not having to even really put the brakes on at all. Valdosta Tower, Raptor 352 Tango Delta would like to actually exit off here at the north ramp.
Raptor 2 Tango Delta, taxi north ramp via Alpha.
Alright, something that has never happened before in all the almost 80 hours I have running this engine on the ship, and also the 30 something hours that I had running it on the thing, is I lost throttle control. So this is a problem. I just was operating the throttle here and it was registering 0. So fortunately I can look in the logs here to see if it was a voltage problem or something else, or a translation problem where it was just, well, I don't know yet. I've got to look and see, and I can obviously check my connection. Everything else was responding as normal. But yeah, I've never seen that before. And fortunately, as everybody says with this sort of stuff, fortunately it happened now and not while I was in the air. And yeah, I've never seen that. I mean, it's a fly-by-wire system.
Valdosta Tower, good morning. Seneca 945, I'm RNAV 17.
There's
Seneca 44945.
two different sets of wires that run from the throttle control, so one's a backup.
Report 0.
But I'm going to have to research it and see what happened there. I'm not comfortable taking it down the runway right now,
And top star 1,800.
if that's happening. And it just goes back to idle. But yeah, I'm going to have to research that and see what's going on. That is definitely a serious showstopper problem. And I'm not kidding around.
And 945 past 2R.
So just going to let it cool down here a little bit and we'll shut it down. I'll look at the logs and see if I can find out what's going on. Alright, so what happened back here on the way when I was transporting the aircraft, somehow, I don't know how, this guy got broken. So down there inside where the switch is mounted, which is further down there, actually got broken, so this thing was just flopping around, so I had to get a new switch. So that was sent out to me by JD out there in California and replace that out. But in order to replace that out, I had to take this console kind of out of here, and so this part had to come out as well. And when I put it back in, everything went back in the same position. But when I went to run the throttle up here, because it hits these, basically the stops here, was only getting to like 95%. You might have seen that in one of the previous videos. It was only getting 95, 96%. So I just did the recalibration in the ECU to make that equal 100%. Well, actually it's 101%.
which translates to 100 in the end, and then back here is minus 1%, which translates to 0. Anyway, for some reason, the way I did the calibration, which is just basically, clicking on the item, setting it 0 here, and saying calibrate the offset, and then you move it up to here and you say calibrate the percentage variation, and it figures it all out for you. And I thought I did it correctly, but for some reason the tracking one, because there's two different things inside of the throttle thing there. One is one pot, which actually is the main one, and the other one is a tracking one, which just kind of verifies that the other one is working. And if they don't agree, then it throws an error. So anyway, and that's what you've kind of seen, or you're going to see here in the logs that I'm going to show you. Alright, so as I was taxiing back there, and I was just passing the tower on that third run, I noticed I didn't have any throttle response. So if you look at that top section there, you see a red line and a green line, and where they start to diverge from each other. The red line is the main throttle thing coming from the actual throttle itself, and the green one is the tracking, which is basically a backup to verify that everything's working okay. And you can see they've basically gone astray, or they're separated, and once they get beyond 10% out, it throws an error, and you see that tracking fault showing up in the bottom section there. So how I need to fix that is basically by recalibrating it, and then I obviously need to monitor it going forward to make sure that I've actually solved the problem and there's not like a hardware issue with the actual throttle unit itself, because it just has two pots in there. One is the main and the other one is the backup. So yeah, I'm just going to have to keep monitoring that, but I have reset it, as you'll see here in a second, and I'll show you what it looks like here in the calibration section. So this is the section where you calibrate it, and so down here you've got this scale value there for the tracking one, and then you also have a scale one and an offset for the main one, and they each have their own voltages coming back, and they each have their own offset and their own scale. But you see their tracking was negative 22.8 and the main was 2.9, so obviously way off. So anyway, I'm going to have to monitor that, and I'll be able to do that through all the next runs just to make sure nothing's going astray. But after I recalibrated that, this is what it looked like when I was moving the throttle around. So this is obviously just moving over real time, and I'm just moving the throttle through all of its different motions there from 0 to 100, and everything looks like it's fine. So up the top there you see the red and the yellow, or the red and the green are tracking together. In fact, they're all tracking together within 0.1%. So that's what it's supposed to do, and I just ran that for quite a while, up and down all over the place, to try and see if I could get anything weird to happen with it, and it's working the way it's supposed to. So I actually took the aircraft back out on the runway and did a couple more runs without trying to get it off the ground. Just I wanted to see if the throttle was going to do anything weird out in the heat and everything like that, and I couldn't find another problem. So I'm just going to, as I said, have to monitor this and just make sure that it's absolutely fixed. And I may try seeing in there if I can change the adjustment so it doesn't necessarily turn off if there's an error tracking that. I think there's something I can do to do that, but I need to research it more. And lastly, I figured out why I wasn't getting off the ground today. So take a look at the elevator there. This is just starting to roll out on the third run, and you can see the elevator is trimmed with a bit of downward deflection there for nose up attitude. And if I let the video just run in real time, watch the elevator as the aircraft picks up speed. The elevator starts to just push up just under the aerodynamic loads, and so it's really just pushing up to neutral there, and in fact it goes beyond neutral, so it's just not generating the lift that it needs to there. So I'm going to have to either just put more trim to start with, or perhaps make the trim spring stronger. So watch there as I go from, that's at high speed there, and then all of a sudden I'll jump it back here to how it started out. So, and then you could see it was down there, and then when it was running fast it was up. So as I said, I'm going to have to either just trim more in there to start with, which is probably the solution, or make the trim spring stiffer, and I don't really want to do that because I need to be able to override it just manually when it's in either position, either all the way up or all the way down. So, but as again, seeing the video here, you can go and analyze things after the fact and really learn a lot. So that's why it's not getting off the ground there, so I'll have to adjust that and we'll have another go at it. So thanks again for watching, and tune in again for the next one.